Asylum seekers, shall we? Because those of them that are living in hotels in the UK are apparently going to have their allowances cut to £1.27 a day next month. This means essentially it'll be cut from £9.58 to £8.86 a week. So I'm asking you a question. Is it right then to cut these allowances? Should they be getting allowances at all? And is this money that they're getting enough? You tell me, Shaun, your thoughts.
First and foremost, we have to make sure these people live in humane conditions, that they're being looked after medically, spiritually, socially, properly. Once we've done that, then we should bear in mind that everybody in the country's had a downgrade in their income because of the cost of living crisis. So you can't have a situation where people are much more comfortable than the people who are paying that bill. But the first port of call must be that these people are being looked after in a humane and decent way. That for me is who I believe that we are as British people.
Yeah, but Pete, I mean, even that sentence there, there'll be people watching this. So when you say humane and decent, people will be sitting there at home going, oh, well, the Bibby Stockholm's not humane, that's not decent. It's this kind of, people will call it floating prison ship. Do you think Bibby Stockholm ticks that box?
I disagree with them, and I think as long as we keep those people safe and we keep them secure and well fed while we process their paperwork, that's fine. But let's be clear: everybody in this country, unless you're rolling in it, has had some kind of downgrade in their income.
Tom?
I think the point really about this story is the fact that a conscious effort by government not to uprate the weekly allowance for asylum seekers in line, for example, of other benefits, state benefits. State pension got a 10% increase. DWP benefits, like universal credit, they saw about a 7% increase. This was an actual less, and they celebrated the fact in the press release, was below CPI inflation. In other words, this is a punitive effort to say to asylum seekers in a pre-election year, we're going to do everything we can, whether it's the Bibby Stockholm or it's the criminalisation since the latest legislation went through of those who come over the channel, 75% of whom, by the way, will actually have their asylum claim eventually heard. And frankly, I just think it's for the birds, this idea that asylum seekers risk their lives and come across the channel in order to get an extra couple of quid a week on their allowance when they can't work for 12 months while there's a claim's being processed.
Here's the thing, but you keep using the word asylum seekers. The vast majority of these people are actually economic. That's a different thing. Once you've had your claim upheld, you're care of the state, you're a British citizen, for want of a better term.
Well, you have the right to work and
different thing. Yeah. But before that point, if you're an economic migrant, it is unfair to ask the poorer people of this country to stand you up. They have their own bills to pay, and it's unfair to do that.
Yeah, but I think we're confusing two things here, Shaun. One is that we've got a broken asylum system in this country.
Agreed.
130,000 people are now waiting in the backlog. As I say, I don't think asylum seekers are coming over, even economic migrants come here for a couple of extra quid on their benefits. What they're coming here often is to work in our very unregulated labour market. That's why you're seeing these stories of Deliveroo drivers, for example, who are passing out their credentials to allow people who don't have the right to work here. I just think we need a more grown-up debate in this country about how we treat this vulnerable group of people.
I ask you this question. What would the right to work immediately do for illegal crossings? What would it do for our unskilled workforce? Where would they be? What would it do to us economically if we just said, if you get here, you can work? Well, what would be the upside of that?
Well, what I don't think is sensible is to say to anyone who comes across now the channel that they are instantly a criminal and their right to stay here, even to claim, is considered inadmissible. But
they have crossed
then we're spending
illegally.
Thousands on this failed Rwandan policy.
They have. Let's be clear. They have crossed illegally, and they're economic migrant. So what are you saying, that it would no longer be illegal to do that?
We have defined in our law that they have passed illegally. In international law, they're entitled to come across the channel, albeit the criminal gangs are facilitated.
But our law should have premises. Our law, it's our land.
But the fact is, we could end, actually, the small boats crisis tomorrow if we had a returns agreement with France. It's the lack of our diplomatic...
No, we couldn't, because France has...
Rishi Sunak
I'm sorry. I cannot tell you how untrue that is, because the idea that France would take all these people back when France has its very own, very real immigration problem, so does Germany as well. The idea that we're the only people in this position because of how we've behaved is simply not true. Europe in general, France in particular, Germany as well.
France would take all of these people back tomorrow if we had, as part of a returns agreement, just as we do with Albania, a commitment to process safe and legal routes for these asylum seekers.
They wouldn't, because the number they'd have to take, the numbers they'd have to take would make what Albania take back tiny. And of course, Albania almost exclusively is taking back Albanians, which you could imagine they're taxpayers and they feel very warm about. Asking France to take the world in because we don't want to take, or we can't afford
to take back the people who are in a safe country who can claim asylum there. But that doesn't mean to say that we should get out of our international commitments to take our fair share of refugees and asylum seekers.
I'm sorry, it sounds great when you use all those words like fair share and France and all the rest of that. There's one thing I do agree, the response to this is definitely international. But the idea that France or anybody else in Europe is going to take our refugees when they have their own problems is for the birds. But wouldn't happen.
But coming back to the main story, is this really about a couple of quid for an allowance, which is, by the way, half what unemployed people on job seekers allowance get a week? Is that really where the debate in the Tory party?
No, I tell you where the debate is.
Not just a huge deflection.
Here's why I think
that the Tories have failed on their asylum seekers.
Here's why I think the debate is. I think the debate is the question that nobody's been able to answer: why Britain? If you're sat at home, some people are thinking, are we an easy touch? What is the thing? Are we the promised land? What is it? Why Britain? And I think you're not wrong. An election and all those things focus the mind, and the government are probably thinking, actually, we need to show that we're going to do something slightly different. If you agree or not, I don't know, but that's what they're probably thinking about.
Why Britain's a thing called the English language, and large parts of the world speak it. That's one of the reasons why we're an attractive place.
Why do we spend so much money on translation then? Translators?
Well, because their English isn't necessarily up to that level of proficiency. But my point is, once people arrive here, should we really be engaging in this demonisation of migrants, in this punitive action towards them? As you say, you talked about treating people safely and humanely. I think the benchmark for that is our social security system. If somebody who's unemployed on non-contributory job seekers allowance can get £80 a week to support them outside of their housing, heating and other costs, then why can't asylum seekers?
Because we
on
do
the issue
that.
Of the 12 months you can't work, I think we should bring that benchmark down to 6 months. We've still got people...
I tell you why. First and foremost, when you talk about job seekers allowance and all that, they are people who we are legally, morally and responsible for. That's different. So that's why we should do that. And
so we're not responsible for asylum seekers then?
No, don't stop using the word asylum seekers. It's economic migrants.
I can tell you right now, this is a conversation that's not going to end anytime soon. One of my viewers, he's just asked the question, if all these people can afford all these fortunes to travel the world to get here in the first place and pay people smugglers, why can't they afford to support themselves when they arrive? Good.